I'm also excited to go through this list of Broyles Award nominees because I asked this question, right? Who wins the Broyles Award this season? You went through. What'd you see?
So I got a lot of responses, and by far the leading candidate was Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles. This first one comes from J.M. Spears, who says, got to be Coach Jim Knowles from Ohio State football. Definitely a popular one, and for good reason. Ohio State defense has had a great year, a big turnaround after last year. Second on that was Jesse Minter at Michigan. Our next response comes from Leon Prigg, 23. Jesse Minter in Ann Arbor. Easy. I would disagree with the easy part, but these two by far led the way. But there were 51 nominees announced by the Broyles Award today, so there's plenty to choose from. So who would be your top five, RJ?
Well, these guys are definitely on the list. And to do this just a little bit differently as to my Broyles Award favorites going into this, I got to start with Nuck If You Knowles. If you understand crunk music, you understand that you was in high school with me, and it means something different. So number one, we got to go with Jim Knowles. Again, Nuck If You Jim Knowles. Like, all right, feeling froggy, then leap. I feel like that's what the Ohio State defense has done so well this season so far, which is say, no, we want to dictate terms. And they've been able to do that in this 4-2-5 when I've seen more folks use those three safeties in really interesting ways. Sometimes they're coming down in a 4'9" technique to rush. Sometimes they're just playing a strong side or weak side linebacker. Sometimes they're just the center fielder playing safety. And the thing is, with these defensive backs that Jim Knowles has, Ronnie Hickman, Latham Ransom, and of course, Tanner McAllister, he's been doing all sorts of really interesting things on the back end. And then you got Larry Johnson Sr. and that defensive line continuing to destroy. I mean, Jack Sawyer has come on big. JT Tuimoloau had the best game this side of Harold Perkins. Both of those guys have been in the same conversation as Ndamukong Suh and Chase Young. And of course, Captain Tommy Eichenberg has been just that, just their guy in the middle that is cleaning up everything they have there. Next on the list for me, though, is not Jesse Minter, but got him Joe Gillespie. Talked a bunch about Texas Christian defensive coordinator Joe Gillespie since basically Saturday, right? When they shut down the most talented offense west of the Mississippi and the most talented offense in their league in Big 12's Texas. Now, Steve Sarkisian has won the Broyles Award, right? That's one here. This is usually an offensively slanted award, and it feels like we're destined to have a defensive coordinator win it this year, which I would be up for. This also has been a great predictor of who is going to get a head coaching job in the next hiring cycle, because that dude usually does not stay defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator for very long. He gets a sizable raise. What's interesting about Joe Gillespie is that he is pure Texan. I mean that. He played high school football at Stephenville. He ended up going to Angelo State, where he was a 4-year starter at linebacker. Came back to Stephenville, coached with and for Art Broyles, then became the head coach at Stephenville, won state championships as head coach, and then his only stint outside of the state of Texas at my alma mater, University of Tulsa, where I first get to know what kind of defense he wants to run and why it is successful. And you'll look at a 3-3 stack and you'll decide, no, that's a box advantage anytime we want to go with heavy personnel. And that's really where Joe Gillespie's genius is showing up, giving you different looks. You don't know who's coming. You don't know who's staying. You also don't know which one is going to be the Mike and or who's going to play center field on the safety positions. It's really fun to watch that defense go. And frankly, it could not be happening to a kinder man, and probably the best kept secret that is in Texas until this national show decides to go, no, that dude is for real. Can't wait to see what they do against Baylor this weekend. Feels like they can run the table, go undefeated, and secure their spot in the college football playoff for the first time. And a lot of that is going to be because of who Joe Gillespie is and what he has been able to do in his first year as a Power 5 defensive coordinator. Next on the list for me, Michigan's MF Doom. That'd be Jesse Minter. Now, caveat here, among the 51 nominees that we saw, none of them were Sharon Moore. None of them were Matt Weiss, both offensive coordinators, co-offensive coordinators at the University of Michigan. And yes, I believe that they are in the same discussion as Jesse Minter. But if you can't tell us who calls the plays, we don't know who's named the list. So I was going to try to do a thing where I list all three, but we need to have one for you to consume here on a graphic so I don't get roasted later. So I'm going to go with Jesse Minter, who really I thought stepped into a position that has been really difficult to do well basically up until last year. Like Don Brown, they had to let him go because of what the defense was unable to do at Michigan. Mike McDonald comes in and what we'll call the Baltimore Ravens exchange program, and frankly, gave Josh Gaddis a run for his money as a Broyles Award finalist. And Josh Gaddis ends up winning that award. And he's the offensive coordinator at Miami now. And now we got the two dudes that one is an offensive line coach, one is a quarterback's coach, but nobody really knows who's calling a play on whatever down it might be in distance. But between those two outstanding men, I would want to give it to both of them, and I would like to see the Broyles Award break precedent, but it doesn't seem like they're going to do that. Back to Jesse Minter real quick. Dude is coming from Vandy to the Ravens, and then he's the defensive coordinator at Michigan, to which I'm going, I don't think this is going to work, dog. And he says, no, RJ, I am MF Doom. I'm bringing it like Mike McDonald brought it, and I'm doing it without Agent Hudson, without David Ajabo. I'm doing it with guys named Mike Morris and Yabi Oki, and Will Johnson might be the best defensive back on that team, for crying out loud. They've had guys that play wide receiver that they switched to nickel, and it's working. Now, you're going to win or lose this award if you're Jim Knowles or Jesse Minter in the game, because if they keep their side of the bargain, meaning Ohio State and Illinois, Ohio State and Michigan, Ohio State plays Maryland, and Michigan plays Illinois, we're going to get two undefeated teams in the game for the first time since 2006. Feels like a national title contender is going to come out of that. And at the very least, I expect them to do more than just put up a fight in the college football playoff. But, you know, Michigan, they still hurt from what they experienced last year against Georgia. Perhaps something different happens if they're able to get past Ohio State. But maybe Ohio State is the football team that I believe that they have been the entire year. Next on the list for me is Wu-Tang Ryan Walters, coming out of Illinois. Now, Ryan Walters was described to me by Brett Bielema as a fiery guy, as the kind of dude that he needed to walk up to and say, yo, dog, calm down. We're coaching ball here. It's okay. I have not met many defensive coordinators that aren't fiery men. Full stop. They all got a little edge to them. They all got a vein popping out right here. They're all hoarse at the end of practice. Ryan Walters is such a dude. And quiet as it's kept, he's got one of the top 5 scoring defenses in the country and a top 10 rush defense in the country at Illinois. All right. Now, I don't mean to shade Illinois, but I'm gonna. Y'all ain't been nobody since the Zucker, since Juice was running through Champaign. Okay. Like, for Ryan Walters to come from Missouri and do what he has done for that defense, I think they got a Thorpe Award finalist in the waiting over there. We'll see what Thorpe Award actually has to say about this, but it's been fascinating to see what he's been doing to good football teams. Now, you got the bad loss to Indiana, and you got the bad loss to Michigan State. We'll see if you can come out of this thing, because all of a sudden you went from being a one-loss team to being 4-3 and in a 4-way tie for the Big Ten West, where nobody controls their destiny. So getting past Michigan also not only helps you get into the Big Ten championship, but probably helps Ryan Walters become a finalist, if not win this award, because nobody's been able to do much at all with J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, and that offense. I was just talking about how good those three men as coordinators are in Michigan. I'm going to be excited to see Ryan Walters going up against Matt Weiss and Sharon Moore in particular. Now, the last one on the list for me, I'm calling Terminator X Todd Monken. I had to go check this. Somehow Todd Monken was just kind of not really thought about last year as a finalist for this award. I mean, like, in a real way, right? I don't mean to say that there aren't people out there that believe that Todd Monken should have won the Broyles Award last year and don't think he can win it this year. But not for nothing, the mailman ain't a 5-star recruit, okay? The mailman walked on at Georgia and then got busted down to Jones Junior College, only to get a phone call from Kirby Smart on signing day to save him from signing with Louisiana. And then the mailman has to carry the mail when Jamie Newman decides to make what I think is still a bad decision and go sit out 2020 and go into the NFL draft without coming back. I think sitting out 2020 is one thing. Choosing to prepare for the draft, I don't know about that, dog. I would have loved to see him play at Georgia, see what store brand Cam Newton might have been about. And then JT Daniels, who we thought was going to be the starter even right now at Georgia, Stetson Bennett ran him off too. And Todd Monken has never wavered in who his quarterback is going to be and should be. We got to talk about Stetson Bennett as a Heisman finalist because he's the quarterback on the best team in college football, not because he's the best player in college football. And those two things have really always been at odds. And I'm always going to fight Heisman voters because, man, look, I don't believe they're always doing a good job of identifying who the best player in college football is because it's an offensive-minded award. They want to give it to running backs and quarterbacks, occasionally a wide receiver. 2019, I thought it was Chase Young. Y'all told me it was Joe Burrow. That dude made the Super Bowl. Okay, cool. Still think Chase Young had a better year in 2019. However, those are my 5 favorites to win the Broyles Award. Producer Tyler, what do you think?
I agree with the list, and I think you're right that the winner will probably be determined when Ohio State plays Michigan. Whoever wins that game, if Ohio State wins with their defense, odds are Jim Knowles is going to win the award. But I got to give a shout out to Brian Mason. I'm a Notre Dame guy. He was the Notre Dame assistant listed. He's one of 2 special teams coaches to be nominated. I guess that's what happens when you block 7 punts in a season. Notre Dame's offense is so sorry that the punt block is an extension of the offense. That's where we're at. But just want to give a shout out to him before we move on to our next topic.
Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.